So this exercise is to teach you to be able to hip hinge better. So if you like to work out, this would help you with your deadlift and those kind of leg exercises that require you to take the load out of the low back, create a hinge where you're having more of a flat back. And sometimes that's hard for people to access. And it's really hard in day-to-day life if someone is prone to tucking their tailbone under, over clenching their glutes chronically throughout the day. That creates a forward shift of the head of the femur in the joint. And that can put a little bit of stress on there. It creates a tight pelvic floor and creates a whole bunch of other issues, whether it be low back pain, SI joint pain, those kind, or a weak core, a weak lower abdomen. So what you need for this, I'm going to be using a very narrow yoga block, but you can use a rolled up or a folded up towel. If I were in the office, I'd use one of the Airex pads, which is a squishy, this diameter foam pad. But see what works for you, because depending on how tight your hips are, will depend on what you want to use for this. So we're going to start in tabletop. So hands and knees, and we're going to put the block or towel under one knee. So you're going to tuck the towel, I'll try this side so you can see. So we're going to bring that up, so it's going to raise that hip. We're going to tuck the toe under for a little bit of stability. Then we're going to cross the foot behind there. So it's making this front leg come into adduction, or it's bringing it to the midline. And then we're going to come down onto your forearms if you can. That makes the stretch more intense. Now, if you lean towards the side that your hip is elevated on, it's less intense. If you try to drop that hip towards the opposite side, it's going to open it up and make it feel more intense of a stretch. Try not to hold your breath while you're in this position. Our pelvic floor talks to our breath. So you're going to want to hold this for about a minute, but do breathing with it. So think of your ribs as being like my fingers, closed together. And on the inhale, we want to expand the back side of the rib cage, opening up those ribs away from one another. And then as the pressure works its way down, think of opening up your pelvic floor. If you take your hand, grab behind you and feel that bone you sit on the top of the inhale, think of pulling it to the side and think of opening up the back side of the pelvic opening to relax that at the top of the inhale. So you can stay here, dropping the hips away from that elevated side. Then you're going to inhale through the nose, breathing into the back. You can hinge back, you can hinge towards the lower side, and then exhale all the air out. Again, you'd hold it for about a minute. You can even reach back here, grab the bone you sit on the inhale, ribs open, pull lightly on that bone. Think of breathing into your pelvic outlet, and then exhale. Just as a little tactile reinforcement to open that area up and get that openness so that you can hinge properly. So if I'm doing it this opposite way here for you, I'm going to show you on the other side. So my knee is elevated. On this side, I am in tabletop. Tuck those toes under, cross the leg behind. So instead of leaning towards the side with the knee elevated, I'm going to lean and try to drop this hip down towards the floor. So you're opening up this side of the posterior capsule of the hip on that elevated side. Again, if you come down to your elbows, that's more intense. I'm dropping my low hip down. And then I'm going to inhale through the nose, breathing into the back side of the rib cage, and then into the pelvic outlet, and then exhale. And you're going to hold for a minute. Again, you can reach back here, grab the bone you sit on, in through the nose, Pull lightly, think of opening into that pelvic outlet, and then exhale. Fully let the pressure come off the pelvic outlet. So do each side, do it for about a minute, and that's a great way to access opening up the posterior capsule of the hip, which is tied in to the pelvic floor area, and it will help you with being able to recentrate that hip joint, and that's going to translate into helping with low back pain, SI joint pain, pelvic floor issues, those kind of things.